So hello and welcome once again to my 00 gauge layout new junction. Right, this time you join me as I am slowly piecing together all the empty spaces on this side of the layout, in particular the heritage line, which you can see in front of you in the foreground. So I'm going to wind the clock back a bit as usual, and we're going to see where we started. So here we are. Now, this is the section of railway I'm going to be working on in this episode. Now, although it's a smaller part of the layout, it is actually quite substantial in the sense of it's basically an 8-foot scene all told. You've got the actual single track line coming all the way down. You've got the bridge, the road bridge that has to go over in the middle. And then, of course, you've got the main focal point, which will be the sidings. Now, these sidings are quite important because they've got to be functional, because obviously it's an exhibition layout, so they need to be able to be used. They still need to be operational in an exhibition format. If I want to drop off a train, a sort of freight train or something like that for a goods excursion on the heritage line, they have to be big enough for a goods train to be broken up and put in, while still being scenically worth having a look at, because the first corner is very much dominated by the tunnel portals and the main line. This is very much got to be its own interest point, because you've got to keep the interest at an exhibition. So now, I learnt from the original new junction not to have a giant engine shed right here. Now, yes, ordinarily buildings and things in the foreground, absolutely, but I think the feng shui of the scene will be spoilt somewhat if I put a giant engine shed here, so that rules that out. So I did ask on Facebook and social media what you all thought, and quite a lot of people said abandoned sidings. Now, still practical, you can put a lot in there, and of course the scenery is different, so although you're continuing the theme, it adds something visual. And of course I've got quite a few weathered items, graffitied items already, which can live in these sidings when there's not a sort of goods train in them. But first, while I have a think about that a bit more closely, I'm just going to build up the scene. So first job is to paint the sides of the rails, which is why the main line's running and the heritage line isn't. I've got to paint the sides of the rails on the heritage line and the sidings. First job. Previously on the main line behind, I used the Humbrol Rust Wash, which I'll be using again for the heritage line, but I'll also be using Rail Match Sleeper Grime for the actual sidings themselves just below, because I think it'll be a tad darker, and I just want to have a subtle change in tone. So next, what I like to do is get a bit of white acrylic paint. I've put far too much on the piece of cardboard, which I didn't mean to do. Take a tiny dab of that with this brush and wipe most of it off. What I'm going to proceed to do is dry brush the sleepers. Now, the sleepers on this is Pico Code 75 bullhead rail. Now, the sleepers on this track are embossed with a sort of wood grain pattern, and they catch the white paint, and it works really well at just highlighting some of the effects on the sleepers. Bit hard to see at this point, but you have to trust me, it's worth doing at this phase. And again, if you take your time, unlike what I'm doing, it really shows some results. I actually first saw this method used on Oak Road, which was done by Mike, and there's a video of that earlier on in the channel, and it's a few years ago now. He taught me this method, showed me this method, and I've gone with it ever since. It's really quite fun. So just while that white dry brushing is drying on the sleepers, I'm now going to commit this section to become actual scenery, and trusty brown acrylic. I'm just going to paint the wood once again. As you can see, I've painted it before, that's why I've got tan lines, but time to do it properly. So while that's drying, it's time to move on to the ballast. Now I'm going to use the rest of the Tiny Friends Farm Harry, Charlie and Jerry bathing sand. So basically it's chinchilla sand, and this is from Amazon, just as a reminder. It's about £3 for this bag, and yeah, I'm going to be putting it on the track, but I'm going to start down that end to give this paint a bit of time to dry. So slightly different to the main line, rather than using a ballast mate, I'm going to pour some in this spare lid and actually just pinch it onto the track, because I don't want any shoulders, because as far as I've seen, heritage lines don't have shoulders like the main line. So I want a very flat looking ballast. So here goes. And just like that, the basics of the ballast are in and awaiting gluing. Now, I've gone all the way up to the points up that end near where the signal box is. Of course, I've got my bit of plastic in just to separate the ballast for when it's drying. And of course, in true New Junction, no budget spared fashion, I have just mocked this bridge up, because I think I've had a lot of comments, and I think a lot of you are getting confused about what's actually happening with this space. So, road comes out from underneath the bridge, comes up, and it'll keep going up, single track, and it'll go over this bridge and join there. So, yeah, that's the idea with that. And of course, it will be double track to simulate the now heritage line that used to be a main line of sorts. And if I just turn the camera, you can see that's the current layout. What I think I'll do is I'll actually change this, just thinking aloud, because the bridge tells a story being double track, and I don't think these sidings suit it very much. So what I will do is this siding here, I will actually unpin it and move it and extend it so it goes underneath the bridge like that, and I'll have a buffer stop, and we'll use it as storage, because that was a good suggestion that I've had online, and it'll just come to a buffer stop, and it just gives the impression that it once was a sort of mainline a proper railway, as it were, which has a bit of history to it. So yeah, this siding will be moved across, and this one I'll have it as it is, and yeah, hopefully you get the idea with my bridge. So next job is to glue the ballast down, and of course I'm going to put a bit of scatter down to simulate a sort of a yard effect. So let's see how that works. So for all the rest of the scene, particularly where it's painted brown, I want to create the effect of a sort of stony yard that you often see near stations on heritage lines, where they've just filled it with hardcore, etc. So they've got a sort of practical base that isn't tarmac. So what I'm going to do is paint on with a paintbrush some PVA glue, and I'm going to dab on a mix of ballasts. Now again, I'm turning to my old spare tubs of Hatton's ballasts. So these have been used as weights as I dried track, but now I'm actually going to use a bit of it. It's slightly greyer than the ballast I've used on the actual track, but it's dusty, and I like that, and I want that for this. So I've been educated: glue, ballast, and then magic ingredient, a bit of tile grout. Because I've never done it before, I'm going to do a little sort of trial piece just here, and we'll see how we get on. So at this stage, I know this box is upside down, but that's because I've opened it upside down. At this stage, I don't know quite what to do with this. This is part of the fun of modelling. I've never tried this before. It's just been suggested to me to add tile grout on top. So I thought, well, what's best? Sprinkle it? I don't know. Obviously it's not as powdery as it could be. We'll just see what this does. That was obviously too lumpy, so what I'm going to do is, if I move the camera, get rid of these lumps, because that's too lumpy. That's obviously dried, and put them in the bin, because the bit that's actually powder is actually going in quite well. So what I'm going to do is sieve out some of the tile grout and get some of the powdery stuff. Try again. So you're joining me currently on a journey of discovery here. I think maybe my tile grout is probably past its best. However, it does seem to be working. Wow, and hopefully you can see that now. It looks very white on camera, and obviously I've got this mound of big bits, but they're crushing up with the as the brush goes round. What it's doing is it's making it look very concretey, but also hardcore-esque, and very different texture and look, which is what I'm after, to the actual ballast over there. So that's really handy. So what I think I'm going to do is continue now and fill in all the gaps. So I'll do all the way down here and then up to the end of the track just here, and then bringing you back. I've got this little section here. I'll just fill in that and continue it because I'm quite happy with how this is looking, and then we'll come back to it when it's a bit drier. So that's now hoovered, tidied up a bit. It does need to dry, but so far I'm actually really impressed with how it looks. So fingers crossed it dries well, and we'll see what it does regarding its colour, whether it needs painting. because as far as the texture is concerned, I'm really chuffed with that. So yeah, next we need to go and see what we can put on the new space. So I've brought you to this side of the layout because it's looking a bit tidier, but I've been through all the old drawers of all the old goodies that never got used, and as you can see, so the first one I found is these Hornby accessories. Now these are just wheel sets. You paint them up and they look wonderful on sidings. I've been to Westhill Wagon Works again at Model Rail Scotland and got myself a various host of stuff, such as the Peak cab and the 08 grills. They're great fun and stuff you generally see on a Heritage Line siding. That doesn't stop there. I've got sort of more standard stuff like fences. I've got some cats. All this is non-affiliate, by the way. It's just pocket money prices. Got some bags, they might be useful, and some lamp huts. Again, they just need spraying up. I found an old Oxford caravan. Most railways have something like this for their staff to sleep in. And I've even found some Bachmann Scencraft workers. Now, again, I would probably prefer to use Model U in this day and age, but I've got these. They've just been sat in a box. They're very dusty, so why not? They'll look good. So first thing to do, get these all sprayed up and yeah, start building in the scene. But it's always worth going through your bits boxes that end up underneath the layouts, because you will undoubtedly find some absolute treasures that you can use to detail up a scene. So the new accessories from people like Westhill and the Oxford Caravan, they just work in this kind of environment. Obviously I've got the sacks and the cats attacking the bloke, and fences, etc., and lots more to come. All I need to do now is get the trains running and get painting, because otherwise I'm quite happy with this, although might need to work on the colour of the gravel. And there we go. As you can see, the scene continues. The white groundwork that you can see just on the camera there, I'm not 100% happy with it. It is a bit too bright, but we've had fun experimenting with a new ground texture. And I think as a texture, it works very well. Just the colour's a bit off. So whether I should use some paint to darken it down, a wash, things like that, all to be experimented with. Worst case, I can just scrape it off and try again. All part of the fun of model railwaying. You've got to give it a go. Right, there'll be sadly, no progress next weekend, because as I'm filming this, I'm going to the London Festival of Model Railwaying down at Alexandra Palace. If you're down that way, if you're venturing to that show, do come along onto the Accurascale stand and say hello. I'll be there all weekend. I'll also be... after I've got a shopping list as long as my arm for lots of little trinkets and things, just to bring some more details to the Heritage Line down there. And I'm looking particularly for lights for the signal box and maybe a signal or two for down there, but we'll see what's at the show. As ever, I'm going to say a big thank you to you at home for watching. Don't forget, if you'd like, you can subscribe. It's completely free. Just hit the button down below on the bottom right of your screen. And of course, as ever, thank you very much to the channel Patreons. Without you, it wouldn't be possible to bring these regular updates. So thank you as ever, and hopefully I'll have another video very soon before the end of the month. But take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.